Good afternoon, and welcome to today's forum. The League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and Metro Cable Channel 14 are pleased to bring you this forum featuring candidates running for Sacramento County Sheriff on the June 8th primary ballot. My name is Tricia Erhammer. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Sacramento, and it is my pleasure to serve as moderator of today's forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization made up of both men and women that encourages active and informed participation of its citizens. The League does not support nor oppose candidates or political parties. Rather, the League provides information and moderates forums such as today's to help voters make an informed choice on their ballots. The format of today's forum is as follows. Each candidate will be offered a 1.5-minute opening. Next, the candidates will respond to questions from our panel with a 1-minute limit. The questions have been submitted by the panelists and have been reviewed by the League of Women Voters. Finally, each candidate is invited to offer a 1-minute closing. Now we will move to today's forum featuring candidates running for Sacramento County Sheriff. To my immediate right is Scott Jones. To my left, Jim Cooper. And a third candidate, Brett Daniels, is not in the chambers at this time. Thank you for joining us today. Sitting on our panel and offering the questions today, Pia Lopez from the Sacramento Bee, Sam Stanton, also from the Sacramento Bee, and Perry Hartline from Messenger Publishing Group, and some of their publications include the Carmichael Times, Natomas Times, and American River Messenger. Thank you for taking the time and joining us today. Now we are ready to begin. The candidates have drawn straws to decide the order of opening statements. And we will start with Scott Jones. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. And thank you to the League of Women Voters. Excuse me. Thank you to those watching at home and those in attendance. These candidate forums are a very important way to get our messages out, the vision for the Sheriff's Department as we move forward. Extremely critical time for the future of our department, the Sheriff's Department, as well as law enforcement regionally. Of course, with the budget cuts that everyone's aware of and everyone has been affected by, and our layoffs, it's becoming increasingly challenging to run our department effectively. And we need to look for new and innovative ways, look inwardly, recognizing that this is our new economic reality, looking inwardly to become more efficiently so we can move forward and grow in this new economic reality we find ourselves in. My name is Scott Jones. I'm a captain in the department. I currently hold 3 different assignments. I'm Chief of Staff to Sheriff John McGinnis. I'm the department legal advisor. I'm also in charge of the investigations division, and I hope to be able to share my visions on openness, collaboration, and experience as we go through this today. Thank you.
Thank you. And to my left, Jim Cooper.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. I want to thank the League for hosting this forum. I think it's important to find out what's going on in the Sheriff's Department and what the key issues are. I'm a 25-year veteran of the Sheriff's Department. I'm a captain currently in charge of the Sacramento Valley High-Tech Crimes Task Force. And what our assignment is, we do all the internet crimes against children investigations, child pornography investigations. If somebody is trafficking or downloading child pornography, we investigate them. It's a 51 agency I'm in charge of, 51-member agency throughout Northern California. We also do forensics on cell phones and computers, as well as identity theft. Been a 10-year member of the Elk Grove City Council, currently serving my 3rd term. I was mayor in 2000 and again in 2007. We're at a critical juncture right now at the Sheriff's Department with budget cuts. Last August, we lost 122 deputy sheriffs. Right now, we're having a tough time fielding units in the field and answering calls for service. Our homicide rate is up 40% versus last year. So there's some critical issues we need to answer and talk about in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this time, we will move to the question and answer portion of today's forum. This has been a highly publicized race, so I'm looking forward to listening to the candidates. Pia, will you please direct the question first to Jim Cooper?
Thank you. All three of the candidates come out of the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department. What do you see as the ideal temperament for a Sacramento County sheriff, and what qualities have you shown over the years that meet that ideal?
You need to have a good temperament, number one. You're dealing with a lot of issues, and as elected officials, you have to walk that fine line. There are times to push, there are times to pull back, especially with the Board of Supervisors. They give you your funding, but ultimately, you answer to the people of Sacramento County. So it's important having those relationships with our elected officials throughout our region, because Sacramento County, while we do Sacramento County, we also provide services to the outlying cities. I think it's important to have a good relationship with that. I think what's hurt us in the past is that we haven't pushed enough for law enforcement. It's been a critical issue, and because of that, we've lost 122 deputy sheriff positions. And right now, it's unfair to the citizens of Sacramento County because their service level has been dramatically reduced. I think last year, when the budget cuts first happened, the sheriff should have spoken up. And as Supervisor Jimmy Yee said it best, I want the sheriff over here talking to me about his budget issues, not his number 2 person in charge. And that's hurt us with the sheriff not being over here and interacting with the board. It's a partnership.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you. There's actually 2 parts to this. I think you need the temperament to build collaborative relationships, relationships built on mutual respect and trust. No other way. The other relationships and the temperament you need to have is one with the public, and that has to be built on public trust and engage, and that comes from transparency and openness. The things that I've done in the Sheriff's Department long before I had the aspirations of actually running for sheriff, when I took over command of the main jail, it was suffering from a very poor reputation. I opened it up to the media, opened it up to scrutiny. I created a ride-along program, let cameras in, and really changed the reputation of that jail. We've enjoyed positive press from that and a greater trust ever since. So it's relationships that you have personally, and the best predictor of future relationship ability is your past relationship ability, and it's also a relationship with the public based on trust as well moving forward.
Thank you. We have joining us at the moment Brett Daniels, our 3rd candidate for Sacramento County Sheriff. I'll let him get a breath, and then we'll give him a chance to speak. We will be moving on to the second question at this time. Sam, if you will please direct the second question first to Scott.
Captain Jones, I think you'll all agree that this department is in crisis because of the budget problems that you're facing, the layoffs, the possibility of severe cutbacks in patrol services, and yet the entire campaign has been defined by negative attacks so far. Yesterday, it got to the point where all 3 of you agreed that it had to stop. In fact, Captain Cooper issued a statement to that effect saying that it would stop. And yet, if you go online and look at any of the comments that are being posted on our website, you'll see supporters of both of you and Captain Cooper going at it, supporters promising that there will be more dirt thrown in the future. What can you candidates do to turn this back to the issues so that you can each explain to the voters whether you have the judgment to be sheriff and what your aspirations are for the department?
And this was mine. And that's a great question, and certainly important going forward. People don't want to see all this mudslinging. I think it's important to point out, number one, that I have not mudslinged. I have not gone public with any accusations against either of my opponents publicly. I've been perfectly happy to be on the high road for the last 8 months talking about my vision. I've posted my organizational vision for this department on my website 6 or 7 months ago. Where I want to take this department is what I've been campaigning on for the last 8 months. Never come out publicly. Now, I've had to defend myself against a number of different allegations where I've been truthful from the beginning and been proven truthful at the end of this. I do not want to make this a negative campaign. I want to stay on the issues because I do believe that I have the best vision and way out of this department at this very, very critical time in our juncture. So what I am going to doing and personally committing to is the same thing I've committed to for the last 8 months, and that is run a campaign based on my vision for the department, based on the issues facing us and how we move forward as an organization and collectively, because no matter who wins, we still have an organization to move forward either in June or November.
Thank you. Jim Cooper, will you please direct the same to the same question?
Sure, it's been really disheartening with the mudslinging. I've got a daughter that's a sophomore at San Diego State, and she called me because she read the online blogs and said, "Dad, I never knew you shot somebody." I've never shot anybody, and hopefully I never have to, but it has gotten ridiculous. And that's why I said, issued a statement yesterday. Let's slow down, let's address the issues. That's really the point about the loss of deputy sheriffs. Doesn't matter what's happened in the past, you can't change the past. Let's go forward. How do we bring more officers back on the streets? How do we bring our gang unit back when your homicide rate goes up 40%? Issues like that we need to address and take care of. And a lot of folks are out there. If you're out there on my behalf, don't sling any mud. It does no good, and to me, it clouds the whole issue. Stick to the facts. What are the facts? How do we get in this mess, and how are we getting out? Those are the key issues. I think if we stay on that and focus on that, we're clearly going to see who the better candidates are.
Thank you. And I'd like to introduce now Brett Daniels, who's just been able to join us in the chambers. And we'd like for you to also address this question.
Thank you very much. You know, I don't think this campaign has been defined by negative attacks. The people that control that, for the most part, are the press. Your own article, Sam, profiling us as candidates, instead of concentrating on our issues, on the issues and our solutions, concentrated on our baggage. So the only people, I think, that control the mudslinging or the negative attacks are the media. And I would, challenge the media to start talking to us about what's going on in the county, what's going on in the department, and what are our solutions to take care of that. Stop talking about the mudslinging, and people probably won't sling it.
And with that, we're going to go to the next question. Harry, will you please direct the next question first to Jim Cooper?
Yes. Mr. Cooper, you outlined the problem the Sheriff's Department's facing very clearly. My concern is with the unincorporated areas where sheriff patrols have been cut back. And what that means is, or does this mean that the people in those areas, it's up to them now? In other words, their own protection, their own defense, or to some degree, it is up to them, is it?
In some ways, yes, and that's unfortunate. We cut 122 officers. Patrol has suffered. The north area, you had 3 shootings in the past month and a half that are gang-involved shootings. On the one at Country Club Plaza, the individual had a machine gun, shot over 100 rounds on the ground that were found. Somebody got shot in the head and died. Unfortunately, we didn't send our gang unit out there because of overtime. And that shooting drew every unit from the county: Elk Grove, Roseville, Folsom, CHP, SAC PD. And when people are down there working that homicide scene, the rest of the county goes uncovered. So it is a critical issue. We've got to make patrol a priority. If someone calls 911, you want a deputy to show up. That's a priority. And right now it hasn't been. And our homicides rate's up, our sexual assaults are up. We can't investigate them. The Sexual Assault Bureau has been cut in half since August. We're still getting the same number of cases. So misdemeanor sexual assaults, we don't investigate. Someone flashes on the bike trail, we don't investigate. And the citizens of Sacramento County deserve better. There's money there, we've got to find it.
Thank you. Brett, will you please answer the same question?
Yeah, absolutely. The only person that can protect you the best is you. And so my campaign, a main focus of it is allowing people to do just that, and that involves issuing concealed weapons permits. I am the only candidate who from the get-go has said that self-defense is cause to be able to issue a permit, and I will ensure that people have the ability to protect themselves under me as sheriff. But the reality of it is, I'm also the only candidate, I think, that's talking about the fact that restructuring this department means putting cops in cars in your neighborhood. You can't just say it, you got to say how you're doing it, and that's with a restructuring of a top-heavy management model. I'll do that, I'll restructure the department, I'll put those resources back into what we do, which is put cops in cars in your neighborhood, and I think that'll make neighborhoods safe to begin with, but ultimately, nobody can protect you better than you, and as sheriff, I'll ensure that you have a right to do that.
Thank you. Scott?
And that's a big question. First of all, again, recognizing this is our new economic reality, we certainly have to figure out how to move forward and grow as an organization with the same amount of resources. That involves regionalization. At the beginning of my campaign, I went to all the police chiefs and shared my vision. Every single municipal police chief in this county has endorsed me, and individually from Ileton, Galt, here in Sacramento, Rick Brazil's endorsed me, Chris Boyd in Citrus Heights, Sam Spiegel in Folsom. They share my vision, and they know that we can become greater than the sum of our parts and do so with fewer resources, thereby freeing up resources to reallocate to the streets. But you bring up a very interesting point that's been a focal point of my campaign, is we have to change the paradigm from us being the sole proprietor of public safety to communities, however defined, whether geographic, ethnic, religious, communities taking ownership of their own public safety in collaboration with us. A community will suffer the level of crime that it's willing to tolerate. We have to change that ideal from communities not being willing to tolerate the level of crime that's going to come their way if they don't participate in this crime prevention process.
Thank you. Pia, will you please direct the next question to Brett?
Violent crime rates per 100,000 population peaked in 2004, 2005, and they've been dropping. And the same with property crime rates. They had been dropping back to 1999 levels. But in this era of budget cuts, what will you do other than restoring officers, and how will you be different than your opponents to try and solidify gains?
Brett?
I'll start. Absolutely true in regards to the rates. The current sheriff has actually been the one that has provided the information that murders are up over 100% in this county this year. Crime is skyrocketing, and it's a combination of economic times, obviously. It's a combination of a cut in officers. It's a combination of letting people out of jail early, and all of those things. And so the first thing we have to do is start with that restructuring. You know, it's impossible to get people to not be aware of the fact that there's no cops in a community. It's impossible to keep them from knowing that crimes are going unsolved. The detectives in this department are only solving about 15% of all crime. So it's free hand. And so you got to put cops back in cars, get them in neighborhoods, and start partnering also with neighborhoods, partnering with schools, partnering with churches, partnering with neighborhood associations, and connect to the community too. That is something this administration has failed miserably at, and I will make sure that we push that with this department.
Thank you. Scott?
It's naive to simply say that we are going to put more officers on the street without a plan, a cogent plan of how to do so. We need to grow and move forward, but that's going to come internally by our own internal efficiencies, having an audit of our operations, trying to become more internally efficient. You're absolutely right, the crime rate's gone down because we've been able to enjoy many programs such as community-oriented and problem-oriented policing that have been effective, as well as three strikes law, many things. All those things are gone except the three strikes law. But locally, all of those proactive processes are gone. And remember, our layoffs occurred in August, which was the end of the hot season. Our homicide rate is up 40%. We have a whole cadre of folks that aren't being held accountable to the criminal justice system right now. And absent any negative reinforcement to that aberrant behavior, that's going to continue. So the critical challenge for us going forward is looking methodically, how do we get more proactive, preventative forces on the street? And it's not enough to simply say we're going to do that. You have to have, like I said, a cogent plan of how to get us there.
Thank you. Jim?
Mr. Jones said earlier the community won't tolerate that. The community has to come to a certain point. They shouldn't have to do that. We provide law enforcement, they pay taxes, we should handle it. And the big issue is gangs. We've got to change the way we do business. We haven't done that, and that's what's hurt us. That's the bottom line issue, to get folks out there. We're not responding. And that's what hurts people so bad. And the department has to change. It has not changed. With those forces out there, it's the same thing over and over again. The same folks are being victimized again and again and again. And at some point, it has to change with that. What was the question? I'm trying to follow up on part two of it.
Well, how would you be different than your opponents in setting priorities in this era of budget cuts?
Number one, get out there with the gangs. Deal with the gang issue. I've worked it. That's a lot of our problems is the violent crimes. We've got to deal with it on a first-hand basis and having officers out there. Your gang unit's cut in half. There's no proactive gang unit out there. They're out there going down and contacting those gang members. They're in the office doing cases. They've been cut by a third. It makes no sense what we're doing.
Thank you. Sam, I think we have just time for one more question. If you will direct it first to Scott.
Were the layoffs avoidable, and is it remotely realistic to promise that you can bring those deputies back into the department, given the current budget problems?
Shortly, no and no. The layoffs were absolutely unavoidable. There's a lot of talk made about checking the wrong box on a grant application. Number one, that's simply not true. There was no wrong box checked. There are boxes we could have checked which would have been more advantageous for us, but they would have been dishonest to do so. And even if we are fully funded under the COPS grant, that only funds 50 positions. We still would have had 70 layoffs. All of us captains, when we showed up to these weekly meetings that we were having, were involved in the process to prioritize resources and what was important for us to keep and what was important for us to get rid of. Unfortunately, we had to cut far deeper than we wanted to, but we were all engaged in that process. It is absolutely unavoidable. Those layoffs were unavoidable. The second part of your question, is it reasonable to say we're going to reinstate the 75 or so deputies that are still languishing out there? It is absolutely unrealistic to say so. We'll have growth. We'll come out of this better. We will be drug along the bottom for a while, but we will, by internal prioritization and becoming more internally efficient, be able to bring some back.
Thank you. Jim?
A good number of layoffs were avoidable. Think about it. Last August, before everyone started laying off people, we laid off 122 deputies last August. Fast forward now, you're seeing other agencies lay off their officers right now. The box for federal grants, we checked the wrong box. As part of our layoffs, we laid off our grant writing unit. SAC PD checked the right box. They had no layoffs. They got $9 million in federal stimulus recovery money. $9 million, we got nothing. There's a problem there. And some of those folks we hope to reinstate. It'll happen for a portion. I'm over in high-tech crimes. We're about 70 or 80% grant funded and have been. We're applying for grants more and more. We have a great track record. We're going to get money. And we've been that way for 15 years now. So there's a lot of grant money out there, but it's hard when you don't have a grant writing unit. It's like a bean cutter went and just cut it across the board. We had revenue generating units that bought in money and we cut those units. You got to increase your revenue, or at least keep those units. We cut them. So yeah, the economy was a part of it, but a big part of it was poor management and leadership. And I voted against those cuts that they wanted.
Thank you. And Brett?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when we talk about doing an audit of the department, I guess my opponent forgets that, you know, right here, we did one in 2006. And there were all kinds of wonderful things that were suggested, and practically all of them were ignored. And that's why we are where we are today. And that's why a lot of the layoffs were avoidable. The sheriff actually on the radio said he was basically blindsided by this budget issue. I find that incredible. And that just tells you that there is no true business approach to this department, and that is what is missing. Obviously, we could have done a much better response with resources than having to lay off hundreds of deputies. And yes, we can bring them back, and that does start with, again, restructuring the department. This is a big department. There's a lot of attrition, a lot of people leave, a lot of retirements, too many people get fired, but there is a way to stop filling upper management positions, and instead of doing what was done, I believe, just a week ago, when once again a sergeant and lieutenant were promoted. At this time, I can't believe that this department would promote upper management people, but it's happened, and again, we're suffering at the lowest level, and we need to get these cops back in the department before we continue to lose them to other departments, which is what is occurring now.
Thank you. We now move to closing statements. Scott Jones.
Thank you. Once again, I'll end where I began. Thank you very much for this opportunity and all the opportunities for the viewers at home and here in the audience to hear these important issues. When you're choosing your next sheriff, I want you to remember a couple of things that you need to compare of all of us candidates. Number one is vision. I have a vision. I have an organizational vision that's been posted on my website at scottjonesforsheriff.com for some time. That's my story. That's where I want to take the department. It doesn't matter where it's been. This is where I want to go. Second is collaboration. Aside from the municipal police chiefs, I've got the endorsements of the Citrus Heights, Folsom, Rancho, Cordova City Councils, Galt City Councils, and many others. I encourage you to look at those that are supporting me. So if you don't know me, you can look to the people you trust and who are supporting me. The other is openness, transparency. It's the way I ran the jail long before I had an issue of running for office. It's the way I'll run my sheriff's administration. That's why I've released all my records. I've been totally transparent, not just some of my personnel records, all of my personnel records. And secondly, our experience. Make sure you look at our experience, the divisions we've commanded, and our role throughout the department and our managerial experience. And thank you.
Thank you. Jim Cooper.
That's a good question, Mr. Jones. I definitely look at command experience. Mr. Jones commanded the jail for a year, and he's been in his new assignment for a month. Otherwise, he's been on the fourth floor, sitting behind a desk his entire career. I've had 8 commands in the Sheriff's Department. I'm the most senior captain. I've had command after command after command. Number 2, I've been a city councilman for 10 years now. In Elk Grove, we saw the bad budget coming. We set aside $13 million. We've not laid off not one officer. We're the second biggest police department in the region behind SAC PD. We foresaw it. We thought about it. In our meeting, Sheriff McGinnis told our captains, go ahead and overspend your budgets because the rest of the county does. You can't simply do that. It's time for a change. I'm proud to have the deputy sheriff's endorsement, the law enforcement manager's endorsement. Captain Jones, those are our peers, lieutenants and fellow captains, had enough confidence in me to give me their vote, not Captain Jones, because they work with us, they know who can get the job done. Our firefighters endorse me. The Sacramento Police Officers Association endorses me, as well as the Elk Grove Police Department. They endorse me. It's time for a change. The last 4 years have been a failure.
Thank you. And finally, Brett Daniels.
Thank you very much. You know, I guess I'll start with by saying that, you know, what I've watched in the media in the last week or so, I guess I'm glad to say that I'm not endorsed by the current sheriff or the former sheriff. I think that those are examples of why we are where we're here today. You know, I have 25-plus years experience in the law enforcement arena, law enforcement-related arena. I have 6 years of political experience, and I have quite a few years now of private business experience, and I think that's what makes me uniquely qualified and able to take the department out of the position they're in now and make them a very efficient running department. I think we all have our own different qualifications, we all have our own backgrounds and things like that, but I think, again, what makes me unique is this private business experience. I will talk about one endorsement, and that is with my time on the Citrus Heights City Council, I was recognized for being extremely careful with taxpayer dollars, and that's why I'm proud to have the endorsement of Joel Sullivan, the former president and chief executive of the Sacramento Taxpayers League. Joe came to me with that endorsement. I didn't go to him, and I'm very proud of it. And please check all our websites. We all have that stuff, and we all have Facebook, and please become more aware of all of us. Thanks.
Thank you, candidates. I'd like to just introduce you one more time to the cameras and all the people at home. To my right, Scott Jones. To my left, Jim Cooper. And to my far left, Brett Daniels. Also, I'd like to thank our panelists for joining us this morning, Pia Lopez, Sam Stanton, and Perry Hartline. Thank you for taking the time and sharing your expertise. Also, I'd like to thank the many volunteers who made it possible to offer this forum this morning here in the chambers. There are 2 websites voters can check for more information about the June 8th primary election. Complete candidate listings and propositions, including pros and cons on each of the propositions, are available at smartvoter.org and also the League website at LWVsacramento.org. This forum and other candidates' forums and ballot proposition analysis will be rebroadcast on Metro Cable Channel 14. For a complete listing of those rebroadcast times, please check their bulletin board from 6 to 8 a.m. each morning. This forum has been designed to impart information to you, the voter, in accordance with our belief that a democratic government depends on the active and informed participation of its citizens. We hope that the insights you've gained from today's forum will help you go to the ballot on June 8th and cast an informed vote. The League of Women Voters is where hands-on work is to safeguard democracy leads to civic improvement. Please remember to vote Tuesday, June 8th in the primary election and help make this democracy work. Have a good day. Thank you.